Hello and welcome to I Helped Make That Halloween themed edition where all throughout October we'll be playing and interviewing actors and other people from horror themed movies and TV shows. I'm your host, Kevin Higgins, and with me today is an extra from I Am Legend, Logan Fry. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I have to remember you're a man of many names, so I have to remember your name. But
Yes.
It's Kevin. I've known you as an actor with one of your nom de plumes or whatever it's called in acting.
Yes,
that wouldn't be a plume.
We've actually acted together in some things, like the web series Pinheads.
Pinheads, one of the best shows on Amazon. I don't know if it's still on Amazon, but it was on Amazon for a while. It's on YouTube, I think, as a series. Very funny. I'm a Russian immigrant who owns a bowling alley and is confused by life. I'm just overwhelmed by life, and it was a very funny series.
Yes, but today we are talking about I Am Legend, which Logan was a background actor in. But before we do that, let us get the anchor ad out of the way. So, if you are a ghoul, a witch, a wizard, a mummy, a Frankenstein, whatever, you want to create your own podcast, use Anchor because it is the one that is the easiest to use.
Personal grooming. Got to get some there we go.
All you have to do is sign up for an account, and then you can record your podcast and post it on all the platforms, and you're good to go. So try Anchor today. And now I'm going to stop using this voice because it's getting really annoying.
Yes, it is.
But welcome everyone to I Helped Make That. And thanks, Logan, for coming onto the show.
Oh, I'm delighted. You're one of my favorite actors, friends, writers, producers, and I'm always glad to be with you.
Thank you so much. So anyway, Logan, you have an interesting story, life story. For people who don't know, Logan started off as a lawyer, right. Then he became a weaver,
right.
Then he started acting, writing, directing, and producing his own movies in the late 2000s when he was in his, I won't say his age, just to, for his sake. But anyway, Logan.
I had a birthday yesterday, Kevin. And I was 78 years old on my birthday.
All right. But anyway.
I think I could tell. I mean, that's part of my story after all.
So anyway, Logan, what made you decide to become an actor, writer, producer, someone someone who's just a triple threat in general so late in life?
Well, because if you don't do something, you get bored with life and you have to shoot yourself. So I didn't want to do that. I wanted to stay healthy and keep my mind going. So technically, or the way I got into it as weaving, and I'm not sure if I was still still doing my weaving, but in the local newspaper, the Cleveland Plain Dealer, I think they still publish. Um, it could have been the Cleveland Press, which doesn't publish any longer. There was a little a little clip on for Spider-Man 3. They wanted extras for Spider-Man 3. And this is a movie that takes place in New York City, of course, everyone knows that. But they needed to come to Cleveland to film a street scene where the trucks, there's a garbage truck and Sandman's on it, and he gets hits a he's in the armored truck with the money, and he hits a garbage truck, and they're just general mayhem, and they couldn't close down about a dozen blocks of New York City. So they came to Cleveland. They said, we can close down Cleveland, okay? And the mayor said, yeah, you can close down Cleveland. So they filmed there. I went to the casting call. I had a car. They wanted to know if you had a car or a dog, I think. And they cast my car, and because they decided to use my car, they got me. They got me besides. So I really loved it. It was a great show. It was a couple of days. I don't know, more than a week, over a week. It extended over a weekend. So I started deciding I wanted to get into acting a little bit, and I some friends said that there was a actors list, a Northern Ohio professional. I'll say that slowly. Northern Ohio Professional Actors List, NeoPAL. And I started going through that, and there was a listing for they needed extras for I Am Legend in New York City. And I said, I can do that. So I submitted, and they took me. And so I went to New York and got in the movie.
And then, well, first off, you were in Ohio
Right.
and you had to go all the way to New York City. How much were those plane tickets?
Okay. I got to tell you, when I'm on set with extras, they think I'm a tourist actor. They think just a dilettante. I'm just there because I want a vacation. I want to be in a movie. I'm just one of those guys. But I take it seriously. But I'm not a SAG actor, so I'm getting uh, non-union wages. So I'm losing money on each one of these trips. And I've been to New York City for Billions and Succession and Mr. Robot and just almost a dozen movies. So I lose money each time. But while I don't think of myself as a vacation actor, uh, at the same time, it's fulfilling. I really enjoy it, meeting the people, being on set. I mean, I Am Legend was one of the best.
What made it one of the best?
Well, it was challenging. I mean, we didn't go out and have a couple hours on set and then go home, have a nice dinner in a New York City restaurant, and then go to a play and all this stuff. I mean, it was like 16 hours a day devoted just to the movie. And it was left about 8 hours to get back, get showered, get to bed, get a little bit of sleep, wake up, and get back to set. These were long days, and these days didn't start at 8 or 9 in the morning or 10. The day started about 5 p.m. and they did all the check-in and all the preparation. We had a little meal or something maybe. And then they didn't actually start shooting the scene until after dark. It was a night scene, had to be after dark. So we would work until midnight. One night we were on set until 3:48 in the morning. And that was one of the coldest nights of New York City because it's like January 24th, January 25th, 2007. And it was cold. But at the same time, it was just a heck of a lot of fun being on set and seeing all the mass action and the insanity going on in set, and seeing the Brooklyn Bridge being they blew up the Brooklyn Bridge while we were right there on set, and it just you saw it in the movie, and we saw it there.
Oh, now I was watching the movie last night and while I saw, the scene with the evacuees, or one of the scenes, one of the flashback scenes with the evacuees, I thought I might have seen you in the front of the line near Will and his family. Was that you or no?
I gotta tell you, at one point, we were advancing towards there was a platform. They brought in a barge. We were under the Brooklyn Bridge, um, right on South Street. And they brought in a barge, and that was where the helicopters and people would get on the helicopters to get out. How they were going to get 1,000 people out on this barge and a couple of helicopters is beyond me, but that's what they were doing. And at one point, I advanced towards the barge a little bit too fast, and the director stopped and he said, "Hey, you up there, get back." And the problem was I wasn't a SAG actor, and I didn't belong at the beginning of the crowd. And he saw me, and he didn't want to see me because I was an actor that you're not supposed to see. So I doubt if you actually saw me, unless
Hmm,
it was a mistake.
it might have been a mistake, but that's interesting to note. I think must have changed their rules on that because I'm also not SAG, I'm non-union. But like there are movies and TV shows you can see me pretty clearly in. Like for example, Saturday Night Live, if you remember,
Oh,
I had the
yes.
close up and
Yeah, I saw that. That was great.
yeah, but I'm still non-union.
Was that the Halloween scene on Saturday Night Live?
No. It
It was
wasn't.
a musical scene, though, I think.
Yeah, it was a musical scene. It was like a parody of like 90s R&B songs. It was like
Okay.
the singer was Russian. However, back to I Am Legend.
Just real quickly, um,
Yeah.
it's really funny because every show is different. Sometimes they don't want to see the non-SAG background actors, but sometimes, I mean, if if you're if you're where you're supposed to be and it looks good, they'll keep you. I was in Oz the Great and Powerful. It was in Michigan. We were on a big sound stage. We had one background actor that was too far to the front, and they caught him on camera in the frame, and they said, "Hey, move back out of there," because he was going to be detracting from us being able to see Michelle Williams, who was one of the queens or whatever. So they will sometimes take you out of a scene or out of that direct view if you're distracting from the main actors. They don't want people looking at you instead of Michelle Williams or one of the lead actors. But for the most part, other than that, if you're sitting in a restaurant, it pans by and you're sitting there, great. For most actors, they tell me though that they only see their elbow in the scene, and that's as much as they ever see.
So maybe it actually doesn't have to do with any like SAG rule. It's really more, I guess, the directorial's preference.
Right.
I don't know if you've heard this story, but in Being John Malkovich,
Hmm.
um, one of the extras was driving their car. They were non-union. They were supposed to just drive their car, but they got drunk and decided to ad lib in both a line and throwing a can at John Malkovich.
No.
They did. And the director loved it and they became SAG thanks to that.
We, I, again, going back to Oz the Great and Powerful, which is another great film that I was privileged to be in. Um, they had one scene where they needed someone to say a line, and they saw a guy. He's wearing he was a townsperson wearing a funny little straw hat. They pulled him out and said, "You say this line." There's only one line, and he did, and they made him SAG. They kept him for 2 more days, and then they let him go because they're not going to pay SAG rate wages to an actor who's basically, again, a background actor. And he did his line, he did his part. He's in the movie, and you can see him. But and he got into SAG that way. Whether he ever got another SAG role in his life, I have no idea. Um, but funny things happen on set. I mean, just it's one of the fun things is it's just unpredictable.
Yeah, and were there any unpredictable events while filming I Am Legend?
I think I would say one of the most unpredictable, and this is not during filming itself, but I think it must have been the night of, and I could have my dates wrong. I think it was the night of January 26th, 25th, and then into the morning of the 26th. It was it was like 14 degrees. There's a watchtower across the river that you could see from our side of the river under the Brooklyn Bridge. We're at South Street, and you could see the watchtower is 14 degrees, and it was cold. And the extras were, oh, they were just they were almost ready to revolt. Maybe not, but some of them were. And Will Smith was on set with us, and he he jumped on a dumpster or some kind of big platform, and he started singing "Summertime," and he sang the whole song, and all of the extras, joined the chorus. And I mean, yeah, that's really unexpected when you have somebody, and for all of Will Smith's current issues, he's a great guy, and he's going to be in a sequel. We can talk about that later. He'll be in the sequel of I Am Legend that's just been announced, and he's a great guy and said great. I don't know what went wrong in the Oscars. It I mean, it was atrocious. It was terrible. I'm glad they didn't kick him out of SAG. I'm glad he can go back, and maybe next year they'll let him back in. I don't know.
Well,
But
I
put him back,
actually
way back.
I heard he's banned from the ceremony. Like he can get, I think it's like he can get nominated, but he can't actually go there anymore. I'm not quite sure what the rules are, at least for
Oh,
like
they'll
10
change it. They'll,
years.
they'll change it for him. He'll do his mea culpas. He'll beg forgiveness, and he'll explain that he was just overwrought. He wasn't drunk,
Yeah.
not at least not visibly. He was just. Um, I
Yeah.
I just have to figure, and this is outside of the scope of this interview, but I just have to figure there must have been some kind of background between Will Smith and Chris Rock, and Chris Rock just took it over the top, and it wasn't just a spontaneous thing and just happened that night. I think there was more of a background to it, and I think Will Smith just super overreacted, and I, he went postal, and I'm glad he just went postal, but um, I'm willing to forgive him. He's a great actor, and he was a great actor in I Am Legend,
Yeah.
and he still is.
Yeah, he did do a great performance in that movie. And sometimes you just have to remember that celebrities are people. I won't say names, but there's this celebrity I've met twice, and albeit it was a brief interaction both times. He seemed pretty nice, and I've heard other stories that he was nice. But there was one time I heard, and this wasn't like a big news story. This was like very private, but I heard from an extra that they were on the set of his show, and he got angry and started yelling in the face of a background extra whose phone went off.
Oh,
Yeah. So, it probably wasn't the phone. There were probably other things just happening in that person's life, but, you know, sometimes things just happen.
well, that's unforgivable. To You're not even supposed to have a phone on set. Everybody carries them, but you're supposed to dump your phone in a box when you get on set, and then pick it up when you leave. nobody does it. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. A lot of people just keep their phones, but if your phone goes off, you've just shot a that could have been the best take on that scene. The actor could have been just superb, and then the whole thing is ruined by a phone going off. I'd be mad too.
Yeah. However, back to 2007, were there any other great Will Smith stories you can share on set?
Well, not really, because uh, we got close, but we got pretty close sometimes. But he was still, I mean, he wasn't there the whole time. Um, but I do know it's not an onset story, but I learned later that he has this trailer which is bigger than the houses that most people live in. It's this humongous trailer. I think it's so big it probably has a swimming pool in it. But it's parked right outside of the set. And when he has to take a break or take off his shoes or get warm or have a cup of coffee or something like that, he can go to his trailer and he can come back on set. For us, maybe we could go in the tent a little bit, but then we'd be back out on the set, and it was cold, and we were just trying to stay warm. Um, but not a whole lot of interaction with Will Smith. Uh, it In that movie, he was such a solitary figure, and even when he was surrounded by 1,000 people, he was still pretty much a solitary figure because he's coming in with his wife, um, Anna, I think, and there's very little interaction with anybody else on that set except the woman with the baby that's she's got a little bit of blood coming down out of her eye, and she's got the baby pleading for someone to take her baby and save her baby. But and there's a little bit of interaction there where Marley, which Willow Smith, where Marley says, "What about the baby?" And Will tries to comfort Marley, but um, it was a very solitary movie. I read one commentary on it that said it's almost like a one man stage show. It was so solitary. Uh, it's a 90-minute movie, so not super long. The first hour of that 90 minutes is basically just Will Smith, and then he goes over the bridge. He's almost about to be destroyed by zombies, and a woman comes up and saves him and drags him out, and that's um, his new companion. And from that point on, from 1 hour to the ending of the film, like half an hour of filming, uh, there's basically two people and her son, of course, but there's basically two people interacting. It's a very solitary film, and yet here we are. There's thousands of us extras on set. So, it's sort of a strange juxtaposition between that loneliness and that crowd.
Yeah. Though it wasn't just people, there was a dog on set. How was the puppy on set? Did you notice anything with the puppy?
You know, I didn't get close. I wasn't close enough to him at the time. He was carrying a puppy, so he was with his wife. Um, and you're going to have to remind me of his wife's name. I've got it. Actually, I've got it over
You,
here.
you know what?
Let me.
I'm not sure it really matters because like she barely had any screen time.
Okay, I got it. Okay. Um, I saw the puppy there. One of the funny things about the puppy, though, is that that dog was played by two dog actors. There's actually two credited actors, and that's about the only. I looked at their IMDb page, and they were not in a whole lot of other movies. It's not like the raccoon in Galaxies of the Universe or whatever it
No,
is. It's
you mean Oreo?
Yeah, it's
Because
not like Oreo.
Mario
Mario
is
was a
just
famous actor, but
yeah.
these dogs were just not. You can look at these dogs were the top billed actors in this film because there's so few actors, so few featured actors, and they shared that acting role. It's almost like they have for babies they have to get twins to be babies, or young children they'll get twins to be young children so they can trade off. Well, they did. They traded off with the dogs. I'm not sure which one of them died. Maybe both of them did.
Actually, that dog's still alive today.
Really? I mean, I
Yeah.
meant died in the movie. I
Oh,
not
in the
died in
movie,
real life.
yes. Yeah. Well, the dog. I think there was only one dog that I noticed, but I mean, played by two dogs in
It,
real
it looked
life.
like one dog, but it's played by two
And
different dog actors.
I know what you meant, but like, yeah, in real life, that dog is still alive. Funny story about that dog. Will Smith fell in love with the dog, Abby, and actually tried to adopt her from her owners, but the owners refused. Yep,
Did
that's
oh, I wonder if Will Smith got a substitute dog then.
I
If
don't
he
know,
got
but
another shot.
you can look it up. It's,
I had noticed that story.
yeah.
The one of the things I noticed when I just preparing for this interview is I went on to some of the sites that talked about filming, and we were basic. We spent I think it was 7 days, 6 days on set, and we had a weekend free, so it was like a Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, weekend free. Came back for a Monday and a Tuesday, but there was a they had a huge sound stage, like the inside of a huge sports arena, the inside of a sports arena that large, a huge blue room that they set up some of the scenes in, and we never saw any of that, and we never saw this empty streets because that was all filmed separately, and then they added all the other stuff. Um, all the set dressing, and some of that was itself virtual. It wasn't an actual street. It was created in digitally. Uh, our only role was to be that mob of people trying to escape from New York City. Uh, as some of the things they did in that movie were really it's interesting to go in and see some of the effects that were used.
Hmm. You know, it was amazing what they could do with the effects. You also said there were thousands of extras. Do you know if there were more extras that were added in with CGI?
Well, there's two sets of extras. One were the evacuees. One set was the evacuees. The other set were the I hate to call them zombies. The infect. I think they call them the infected. Um, and I don't think I'm not aware of adding any evacuees digitally. I mean, they may have added something here or something there just to fill in an empty space. That's a possibility, and you just grab something and put it over here. But I don't think that would necessarily. I don't think that would be necessary. They had the number of extras that they needed. However, with the infecteds, um, and they had a special name for them also, another name for them. Those were digitally altered. They used human people, forms and things, but they had to be digitally altered, especially the alpha, it's called the alpha male and the alpha female were digitally altered. And I think I read that they added additional infected in some of the, let's call them crowd scenes where there's 24 zombies running towards um, uh, uh, Will Smith at the same time. So I don't know if that answers your question. I,
Oh, it
yeah,
does. But
going back to, going back to Oz the Great and Powerful for a minute, they did some green screen work where they would have us walk through an arch or do different actions. They would record it and then put all those individual little pieces together to make a bigger crowd. And they also put us into this little room that had that scanned us 360 degrees all the way around. And I think we may have had different positions, but basically it would scan us. And then having that digital scan, they could take individuals and put them on a boat on the river. I think there was something like that at one point. But I'm not aware in I Am Legend of actually adding people, at least to the crowd scene.
mhm. So there's something else I'm curious about. You are working with thousands upon thousands of extras. How hard was it to move around?
Well, for the most part, there was space around us. I mean, but when we were actually crowding towards the the escape area, they had to scan everyone's eyes to let us through a gated area so that we could be evacuated. Uh, when we're getting in, pressing in, we got pretty close. I mean, it was literally shoulder to shoulder. You can see it in the movie. But in the breaks, we could spread out a little bit more, go back on South Street a little bit more. Uh, and then when action started, we all started grouping together again and and taking the action that we were supposed to take.
All right, so it wasn't too hard to go to the bathroom?
Um, that was never an issue. They're usually pretty good on set with having. Oh, I'm remembering now they have these trucks. I think they're. I don't think they're. I think they're actual trucks that have toilet facility latrines in them, and they're actually pretty nice. And I remember you could walk off set, go to the latrine, and come back. And if you had missed an entire scene, they weren't going to miss you because there's so many people there. As a matter of fact, I met one girl, actually two, I think, who would come in, they'd sign in, they'd stand around for a while, and then they'd just leave. That's it. They go to a bar, go to a restaurant. I don't know where they went, go to a club. And then they would get a call when the scene, when they're wrapped for the night, they would come back and sign out. So, I mean, there were people doing that. And there were also some funny things like, I'm not sure if I can call them Hasids, but let's just say Hasidim, standing on the edges of the scene. And I think there was something about them not approving of filming and doing things like that. And they were going to affect the filming somehow or bring blessings or something. I don't know what they were doing. And there were other people that just walked into the scene. They weren't extras or anything. They just walked in off the street. They had one point, well, early on, after I was cast in Cleveland, um, had a set to come in, and then they canceled some of the background actors, and they did it in such a way that first, well, if you're coming in from out of town, you went on the top of the list of people that to keep. If you changed you've made job changes, vacation, whatever, vacation time, they would keep you. And then if you didn't have any special thing, they would release you. But as the filming progressed, they were losing people or they needed more people. And there's some housing right next to on the north side of the Brooklyn Bridge Causeway coming up. What's the name of that? What's the name of that road that comes in through? That's named after a man, a famous person in New York. Anyway, there's a lot of housing, and the guys would come in from the housing, and they come in for the meals, but then they'd also get cast to be extras in the scene. So I think I got lost in your question there.
No, I was basically asking like, well, I was asking like, if it was easy to get to the bathroom, but it's all right. That's actually very
Oh no, not a
interesting.
problem at all. Yeah, not a problem. We could walk off. I mean, like
Yeah,
I said, people walked off for hours. We could walk off for 20 minutes, walk to
yeah,
the bathroom. There was also always adequate bathroom facilities. And then we never had to wait in long lines. You might wait for one other person. That'd be about the most. And then just walk back to set and get right back into it. These were long days, so we had to.
yeah. But, with the hours being the way they were, besides Willow Smith and the baby, were there any kids on set as evacuees?
Well, that one infected woman and was with a child. Willow was quite young at that time. I've got to, I've got to honestly tell you, I thought Willow uh, Marley, the kid in the movie, I thought that was a guy.
Like,
I mean,
you mean
Willow had very short hair
a
in
little
that scene.
boy? You mean?
I thought I thought Marley was a little boy. I don't know. I must have missed something somewhere along the line. But Marley was there. The mother and the child were there. No, I wouldn't. I I can't recall another single child though.
Well, that's probably for the best because I'm gonna guess child labor laws would not allow those hours.
Well, what the child labor laws require is number one is limited time. You can only be on set. And if I were to give you a number of hours, somebody would say, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. So I don't know if it's 4 hours, 6 hours. I doubt if it's 8 hours, but there's a limited period of time. And that's why they use twins, by the way, so they can alternate between two kids and they'll look identical. So you have to have, there's limited hours. There's more stringent safety regulations of which I'm not really all that aware, but you also have to have education on set. And I vaguely remember a trailer used for classes. I know at least one film, they had a classroom trailer so kids could do their schoolwork. But that wasn't a problem because there really weren't that many kids. It was all adults.
Mhm. Yeah, probably for the best in this case. Now, once filming was done, you have to fill out the W-2s and everything and
Right.
go on the line to bring it to the PAs. How long were those lines?
I don't think they were. They're always they are they're always long because you've got 1,000 people to take off set. So the lines are going to be long, but they weren't, we weren't standing in line for 2 hours. We weren't standing in line for an hour. I might stand in line for half an hour. I don't ever remember that being an issue.
Okay, well, that's good. But another common thing for background actors is sometimes they're not told the title of the project until they get on. What about for I Am Legend? Did you know it was going to be I Am Legend?
I don't think, there's a movie that's just premiered in Venice, um, White Noise. And throughout the filming, they called it wheat germ. And there's some reference to wheat germ or eating wheat germ, or I don't know what it was. But it was called wheat germ. And if you were diligent enough, you could look things up and you could find out that the real title of the film was White Noise. But everything we signed, all of our vouchers, all of the press that came out on it was under the name Wheat Germ. In the case of I Am Legend, I'm pretty sure we knew what we were doing from the very beginning. I can't remember a production name.
Okay. Now, I know you are a huge fan of the post-apocalyptic disaster genre, which I Am Legend pretty much is. So, had you read the I Am Legend book by Robert Stevenson?
Well, I'm gonna have to. I don't know if I'm correcting you or not because I read the Matheson novel.
Sorry, I meant Matheson.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I had read Matheson. My favorite, Dick is what's his first name? Uh, Dick is a William Gibson. He was my science fiction guy, and I read everything Gibson, short stories, novels. I've got a collection of his novels, and I read everything once. Sometimes Neuromancer. The word cyberspace comes right out of Neuromancer. Uh, I'm not so much of a Matheson fan, despite the fact that I've been in 2 movies which were adaptations of either a novel or a short story. I Am Legend and Real Steel, which was shot in Michigan. But to answer your question, I don't know if I read I Am Legend before filming, but I know I've read it at least twice since that time. As a matter of fact, let me get something.
Okay.
I don't know if you can
Wow.
see that.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep,
Am
I can.
Legend. Yeah,
Yeah.
I read it. I've seen the the first version of I Am Legend was The Last Man on Earth, and that was starring Vincent Price. They filmed it in Italy. I don't know if they filmed it. I think they filmed it in Italian, as a matter of fact. I'm not sure about that. They think that probably Italian. I Am Legend. Oh, Last Man on Earth. I actually used clips from that Last Man on Earth that I put in one of my own movies, also called Last Man on Earth. And so I have a dialogue with Vincent Price, and we're talking back and forth with each other, and in a Zoom conversation, just like this. I mean, you could grab that and splice it in, and you'll see a Zoom room like this, and I'm talking with Vincent Price, and just a very good conversation. So I'd seen that a couple of times, even before being on this set. I certainly saw Omega Man with Charlton Heston a couple of times, and I love that movie. So I read the novel. Maybe I'm not sure if I read the novel before. Probably not, but I certainly had seen Omega Man and Last Man on Earth before we got into this project.
So, when you got this background acting gig, were you excited to be doing something similar?
Similar to what?
Omega Man and Last Man on Earth?
You know, Last Man on Earth, I really can't remember a big, it was in Rome for one thing, but I don't remember any big escape from a city, an evacuation.
No, I just mean like similar in terms of plot, in terms of genre.
Well, I like being in movies. I like
Mm-hmm.
I like little movies. I like big movies. I make movies. And in the big movies and the Hollywood movies, the New York movies, I'm basically just a background actor. And, some people don't have a whole lot of respect for background actors. People have told me that, you're just a movable piece of furniture. But you couldn't have movies without background actors. They're almost more, they're almost more important. They're almost more important than the lead actors because they really set the stage and they set the scene and they set the mood of the film. And they're absolutely vital. And in some movies more than others. Uh, but I I just enjoy being in these films. Although I'm getting to an age that I think I may be getting almost, I shouldn't say I'm getting too old for it, but I mean, I had scenes in Michigan where the call time was 3 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. And I had to get from Akron, Cleveland area to north of Detroit, which is a couple hour, I think it was a couple hour drive, and still be there for a 3 a.m. call time. Oh, and you get those early call times, and I'm a late person, and it is it does it takes it takes a certain kind of strength and resilience to do that. You wouldn't think that just standing around all day would be that difficult, but it truly it truly is. I mean, you've done it yourself, Kevin, and it truly is. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question, but I enjoy it, but I'm not sure how much more I'll be doing it.
Yeah. Well, I was just asking if you were just excited to be contributing to that genre in any way, even if it is as a background actor. But seeing as you said you have read the book and have read the movie, you're just not sure which one you did first.
Well,
Were
I definitely did the movie. I'm just sure that I was in the movie before I read the book.
okay.
Because I was a William Gibson fan, not a Matheson fan. So the only actual Matheson that I've ever read in my life is uh, is I Am Legend, and only because it's in that film. William Gibson, I've read everything. Uh, Dick, a little bit more, uh, but I really, uh, I'm a fan of the movie more than the novel. As a matter of fact, I couldn't compare the plot points of the novel compared with the movie and show how they match up. I think when they
Yeah.
go into I Am Legend 2, the sequel, they're going to have to go beyond, not, and I don't know, but I think they have to go beyond the scope of the book if the original film covered the book, if you know what I mean.
I do. That's what I was actually about to ask you. Like, were you shocked when they deviated from the book so much? Because that is kind of one thing controversial about the movie is that some people felt it deviated from the book too much, especially with the ending.
Well, you know, it would be easy to second guess a filmmaker, but it's really a different thing. The film and the novel is the inspiration for the film. The novel doesn't have the right to tell the film what the film's going to be. The film's going to be what the film wants to be, and the novel is what the novel is. So if you deviate from the book, well, go hang yourself. You know, don't watch the movie, read the book again. Doesn't bother me at all.
Okay. It really depends, actually, I'd say, on like familiarity of the book and, and the movie itself. Like, there are some movies I've enjoyed that people said, "Oh, it's too far from the book. I can't watch it because of that." And then there are some movies based on books I have watched where, the movies have gotten critical acclaim, but because I'm just so used to what the book did, that I'm just I'll admit I'm a little disappointed when they couldn't bring that to the big screen, but I get what you're saying. However,
It's just a different, it's a different thing. It's a different media. It's a different experience. It's a different project. They're just not the same thing. You
yeah,
know, people, artists are inspired by the work of other artists, and filmmakers are inspired, and screenwriters are inspired by the work of other writers. But the other writers don't really. I mean, you could say that you shouldn't use that title for a film if it's not a perfect recreation of the book, but sometimes you just can't recreate the book anyway. And other times, film has, has different different kinds of requirements to make them work, and you've got to go to where the film wants to go rather than where somebody that wrote a book 20 years ago wants it to wants wants it to go.
okay. Yeah, and I'll admit there have also been times where, I read a book, then watched the movie and was disappointed the movie wasn't more like the book, but then, watched it again on its own terms and like the movie more like Ordinary People. I didn't like the movie version the first time around because I felt they cut too much and they focused too much on the teenage boy, Conrad, and not on the whole family. Because I had read the book just recently, so I was hoping it was going to be more like a film version of the book. But then I saw it years later and I saw more what the movie was trying to do rather than just comparing it to the book in my mind. And I did enjoy that movie more. I will say I still have a problem with that movie's editing, but other than that, it is actually a pretty good movie. And also a very far example from I Am Legend. Those two can be more different, but I think that's where we can end it today. Thank you so much, Logan, for coming onto the show.
Well, I'm just delighted, Kevin. I always enjoy being with you, and you're a delightful person and a delightful host.
Thank
And
you.
I thank you so much. I'm honored.
You're welcome. Before we go, Logan, do you have anything to plug?
I do have a Patreon page. As a film maker, I go by the name Lonely, singular, by themselves. Buzzard, like the birds that fly overhead. They fly over the roof of our house all the time. Filmworks, and Filmworks isn't really a real word, but I made it up by scrunching together. It's like Waterworks, but it's Filmworks. So Lone Buzzard Filmworks. And if you just put in Lone Buzzard Filmworks, you can get to my Patreon page. It's not that expensive. And I post to it, a couple of times a month, and talk about what my new projects are. I am one of my films. What I'm working on now are films based on a dream motif, and have two animations. I'll be going to London, in fact, to a film festival to screen one of my films, animation films, and I've done the film in so far in English, French, Spanish, and I just added Arabic. So it's a silent film. So you say, how could it be in Arabic if it's a silent film? But the title is Arabic. The credits are in Arabic, and my name is written in a little funny Arabic script. I shouldn't say funny. To us, it looks different, but it's written in the Arabic script. So I'm always making these very bad, uh, sometimes called trash films. So I make these trash films, and I just get a big kick out of it. And I'm working on those now, and then going to film festivals.
Okay. Well, I'll look out for it. Anyway, that was I helped make that. I'll see you all later.